This episode of the Celluloid Mirror is brought to you by Sad Old Man Trapped in Your TV. You know he's in there. Why aren't you letting him out? If you've been experiencing inexplicable ennui laced with fear of no known origin, now you know, and you know who to thank. Sad Old Man Trapped in Your TV. There's one for all of us. Find yours on Route 13, right next to Bennigan's. Just keep following the smell, and when you see the sparks, just put on the mask that'll be waiting for you and head on in.
I mean, what do you think? You think they stand a chance? Well, you're on their side, aren't you? Who are you betting on,
Magic mirror on the wall. Who is the fairest one of all?
Look at these lies.
One shall stand, one shall fall.
Even if one of them survives,
the only way to stop him is to make another movie.
Welcome to the Celluloid Mirror. My name is Sean Mannion, and I am a host of the program. And with me is, what's your name?
My name is Nicole Solomon. I am also a host of the program.
Well, there were two hosts of the program. Well, I think that's basically it. We're good to go. What are we talking about today, Nicole?
We're talking about a very timely topic. Censorship, specifically by distributors of films.
Yeah. Normally we're talking about two films that may or may not have something to do with each other, and then we're building connections. And today we're talking just sort of more broadly about issues around censorship by distributors, whether it's a DVD distributor, whether it's an online platform, or even video stores.
Of the past.
So what got us started talking about this? Because we were talking about this on our Discord earlier this week.
Well, honestly, I think it's just like the coming together of like the ghosts of Christmas or censorship. Past, present, and future. We've talked before on the Celluloid Mirror about how certain streamers may have versions of films that have been censored. Perhaps if you listen to our episode about the lore and Splash, there was a discovery that you and I made, Sean, when we watched Splash.
Well, I think it had been out there already, but was something that we talked about a bit on the show, which is that Daryl Hannah has extra hair over her butt in that was not there in the original release of the film.
It's like a skirt, and it moves independently of the rest of her hair.
Yeah, it moves like it's attached to, it's CGI.
To her waist.
Like it's attached to her waist, which I understand why they would do that, but it looks weird, it looks wrong.
I don't actually, I mean, I do, but you know what? Like, kids can handle butts. I would venture to say that kids can handle nudity in general and context, and not all nudity is like sexy time, but...
No, but Nicole, you have to understand, like, it's porn. It's always just porn.
Splash is porn. Splash is porn, but...
Anything. If there's even, like, the suggestion of anything remotely naked or remotely sexual, it's porn. It's porn.
What are you talking about, Sean? everything that exists is porn to somebody. There does not need to be any suggestion of nakedness. This fucking coffee mug is somebody's like fetish object.
I can't remember which thing it was I was looking at. I think it was about we went and saw the new Jane Schoenbrun, the teenage sex and death at Camp Miasma. And I swear I was skimming through some of the letterbox stuff, and somebody was saying that it was porn because there's some nudity in it and there's sex, and it's like, no, like that's not, and it's
and no offense
people.
to porn. I mean, just so our listeners know, Sean and I are both enthusiastic defenders of porn. This is not like, no, that's a good movie. It's not porn. But it's just porn is a thing that this movie was not. Exactly.
It is a very, very specific thing with a specific goal that is perfectly fine. And like sometimes people want it to be one thing. And then sometimes for whatever reason, a whole generation, it feels like, and this is me being grumpy old man, but a whole generation, it feels like, has decided anything sexual is porn. And it's really just noisy people in that generation, as it is always just noisy people in in any generation.
I'm coming up with a grand totalizing theory about like the sex phobia in generations that doesn't put the blame on the young people. They deserve some blame, but I think my generation and certainly people above me and our completely fucked relationship to depictions of sexuality. This was a team effort, and I can't blame the children.
Oh,
for
yeah,
anything.
no, it's definitely
everything's
like
so fucked
what they
right now. Like
from
they
it.
were born into this mess. Like I'm sorry, guys.
Well,
I'm sorry, kids.
One of the things that I think, and I don't want this to be like the whole discussion, but it's a tangent.
We can have another discussion about this.
Like, well, there's that, but I think one of the things that comes with it is, the shifting things about like what's acceptable or not, because also like the kinds of things that their parents grew up with, right? So the Gen Z that I'm talking about, some of their parents are Gen X and some of them are my parents or my generation or millennial. I'm that I think we're both in that micro generation.
We're both on the cusp. Yeah.
I'm on the very tail end of that cusp, but like, I think a lot of people kind of grew up with, there was the 80s, and first there was the initial wave of AIDS, and then there was and the confusion around that, and I think that affected a lot of people and how they dealt with their kids. And then there was all the people dying from it, and then there was what happened when I was, and this is like early formation and hearing about these things like as a kid, because I remember when I was a kid, one of the things that was a big part of conversations around that and concerns about it, because it was part of the news and it was was destigmatizing. In the early 90s, there was a lot more conversation around it and trying to be educational about it like that. But the way that comes through, I think the trickle down I shouldn't have used that term, but whatever. But the result for the next younger generation is adults who are parents who are afraid for these very tangible reasons that they had, like this level of safety and concern embedded in their lives very young, and then like even before they're being active necessarily, and then that being something that like permeates their relationships from there. Then it's something they pass on to their kids. They're kids who have so much access to sexual material, like with the internet, and like you can't keep, but like, people talk about like you can't quite keep the kids away from the porn on the internet, but it's not like you couldn't find it when you were young before that. It's just, you just had to find somebody's magazines, or you go into the woods and you find a pile of stuff, which is, a thing that sounds like it's a joke, but it's like that's an actual thing.
What happens in The Power of the Dog.
It's a thing. Or it was a thing.
That happens in a lot of movies. It didn't happen to me. I didn't have a wood stash of porn.
I didn't have a stash. I did encounter in the woods.
You encountered woods porn?
Yeah.
We should make a movie about that. We should make a movie about somebody who encounters like some cursed or maybe blessed forest porn. Forest porn sounds a lot better than woods porn because you have the double OR.
Yeah, that sounds good. So okay,
Forest
so
porn.
that's write up an outline.
I'll do that. I need to say though, Sean, I did a terrible job of explaining what we were talking about on Discord. We just went on such a tangent, and I never even said the thing that we talked about on Discord that led to this episode.
Which was that Pleasantville specifically, and this does relate to what we were just talking about.
I had my whole like Christmas Carol set up that I was excited about, where I'm like the ghost of distributor censorship past, because this is the only example of this, is Blockbuster.
Right.
There was no censorship prior to Blockbuster. And then the present is like the Disney Plus and the streamers who are like censoring content and not clearly labeling it as such, which is, well, you know, part of what separates this from like an airplane cut or TV cut of a movie to me. And then the future. We have now been visited by the ghost of censorship future, which apparently is going to be that these boutique labels that we've all been championing, that's a word, for keeping physical media alive. And some of us are spending a lot of money that we do not have on our own physical media collections, including by some of these companies who are being like, hey, newly remastered 4K special features steelbook. I don't know if this Pleasantville is a steelbook. It doesn't matter. It's a 4K. Wonderful. Come get this definitive version of the film.
Yeah.
Turns out the line where Reese Witherspoon says, I already did the slut thing, which you can find everywhere on YouTube and stuff, is just not in the movie anymore. And this was not announced. This was something that was discovered by people who watched the movie. You can find, maybe we can link in the show notes, somebody on, sorry for saying the name, but X.
We're not sharing. We're not
Twitter.
sharing any links to that. Like,
maybe we'll share a screenshot. Somebody shared a useful thing where they just A-B'd the cuts. They like put side by side the original version versus like this new version. And
they can do it on a website that's not for Nazis and pedos.
They can do it on they can do it on Blue Sky, where
anywhere.
Oh my God, let me not go down this route. I have some hopes for Blue Sky, everybody, because they don't want to do ads. They're saying they're never going to pursue ads. They'd have a different model that's a little less doomed inherently. I mean, we'll see. I don't. Anyway,
those guys who
that's
own
why we're doing
MySpace
this.
want to bring MySpace back. Whatever.
You know what's useful about that is I can bring it up when I teach classes about social media marketing, and people get excited, and it starts a good conversation because some people won't know, and they'll be like, "Really?" And then at least one person will be like, "Oh yeah, I heard about that," and then someone else is like, "Yeah, bring back MySpace," and then it's my turn to be the joy killer and be like, actually, guys, I don't think anything's next. I think social media is done. They killed it.
We're all going back to solo websites and doing stuff like that. With that said, people should visit our Patreon at patreon.com/4milecircus, where they can get all kinds of fancy stuff from us. They can leave comments. We'll respond to comments. They should leave comments on some of these videos. We talked about that last time. But that's not what we're talking about today.
We got to brand ourselves as anti-social media. Somebody's already doing that. There's already 100 people doing that.
It's also
right?
probably
like
like some people we don't want to be associated with doing that.
That's a good point.
But social media aside, because social media also heavily censored, like heavily censored.
Changing the way we think because of how we have to express ourselves as if we're like 5-year-olds in kindergarten trying to say something to a friend during nap time.
It's like, I hate when people, you what?
That was correct though, right? That weird analogy I just made?
Yeah, no, I think that works. I was going to say, I hate when people like use this, word and like compare everything to it, but I do think it's genuinely like Orwellian in the 1984 sense. Like it is doing that. Not like half of the things that people point to where I'm just like, that's not read another book. Try another book. I enjoy 1984. I like 1984 a lot. But that's one of the reasons why
for a reason.
Yeah, and it's one of the reasons I get annoyed by people when I'm like, reference anything else. But this
Actually,
is genuinely
brought
like,
it up.
Yeah,
a student brought up dropped 1984 in the chat at one point in this last class, and I was like, yes, it is correct.
All of the fake words for things, and I totally get why people use them. I totally get why people have to use them for like, this is their business and this is and this is the thing. It's the platforms I have a problem with. I also, and again, I'm not criticizing the person here. I'm criticizing the action. It sounds stupid and you sound like a baby child. Like it annoys the shit out of me, and it's not the person. It's what that person is doing.
It's also, I mean, part of why I'm not on social media almost at all anymore, because I didn't want to be taking that in anymore.
No, it's
because it changes the way you start thinking. You start thinking like the word unalive and crap like that. And again, especially the people who are trying to get really crucial information out there via social media about things like, oh, I don't know, mental health struggles, suicidal ideation, getting people help with things like that. You know, like, I get it. You have to, but I am not an isolated teenager who is getting the support that I'm trying to get through Instagram.
Yeah.
I'm not getting any fucking support through Instagram. And so I don't need to be on Instagram and reading these code words and having my brain like smoothed down.
No. And it's related to one, it's a censorship. It's a self-censorship, which is the scariest kind to me.
That's what's Orwellian about it. That's why it's Orwellian.
But like,
we read
in
the
doing
book.
things like this to Pleasantville, it's also like changing like our records of the past, the past in this case just being a movie, but it's also like that movie had that line. Very similarly.
What's that movie about, Sean?
Pleasantville.
Also,
it is about repression.
Irony? It's about
and
censorship.
Yeah. It's so it like, and whether the director involved changed it or not, which I think is one of the things that's up in the air about it, whether the director was involved with wanting that change, it's still a change to a movie that at this point is almost 30 years old. And I think that there's a range of things you can talk about with changes. There's stuff where, we have lists. We're going to put links in the show notes. But like there's lists of like all the change on the stuff on Disney Plus. One of the things I appreciated at first on Disney Plus is and I think that one of the things these lists point out is that they didn't actually implement this very well or consistently. But one of the things I appreciated was that several things just had a warning at the front that said, hey, this was made in a time where it's going to have some, I can't remember how they phrase it. It's going to have some like messed up, like things that are said or depictions of people. Just here's a warning. Like, here's what this is. And I think that is a very reasonable thing to do. I do not like, and I understand that like depictions of certain things, certain words, certain phrases, certain all of that are harmful to people. But we don't fix that by deleting their existence. Like, we fix it by talking about it.
Also, I completely agree. Also, let's be real. Disney Plus is a channel for children. I know a lot of adults have it, but it is a streaming service that more so than Netflix or Hulu or HBO or anybody else is aimed for families so that they can be like, here, kids, watch something.
Right.
And yes, there's like kid profiles, so, you can easily keep your kids away if they can't dismantle those from spicier content or whatever, fine. But I do get that Disney more so than any other streamer, other than like, I don't fucking know if there's Hallmark Family or
there's
some of those
everybody's
Christian
got a streamer.
channels.
Everybody's got a streamer. Just assume.
But whatever. But like more so than ones that are aimed at a general audience. I understand Disney Plus wanting to be very careful about, hey, we've got like this treasure trove of film history, and a lot of it's real racist.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think saying like, hey, there's fucked up stuff in this, you know, and being mindful of that and maybe not throwing it in playlists for kids or whatever. Great. And to the point about, did the director of Pleasantville, whose name I'm horribly blanking on, what I have read a few places is that Shout Factory, who put this out, and this is really relevant, I want to say, because I have a lot of Shout Factory physical media, and I have a lot of Scream Factory, their like horror sub-label. Maybe I'll bring some of it out later so you can see how pretty it is. I will not be buying from this company unless there's some kind of resolution where I feel confident that I'm not going to be accidentally buying censored material, because I have no desire to do that. But sorry, I got ahead of myself. Point being, I've seen statements that like, oh, the director signed off on this. This is a director approved cut. The director signed off on it. I haven't seen anything suggesting that the director requested this change, but whether or not he did, well, I'm kind of like, if he didn't, who did? Because I don't think distributors should be recutting movies, period.
No.
If he, and if he did request it, let's say the director was like, this line doesn't land right for me anymore. I don't think it accomplishes what I wanted it to. The word slut sounds too harsh and feels sex negative. I don't know. Like, he could have decided, like, I don't like this part of my movie anymore, and re-releases are often a time where you get to do what is called a director's cut. I would have no objection if it was like, this is the Pleasantville director's cut, if the director wanted that line cut and it was labeled as a director's cut. Fine. I mean, there's 50 versions of Blade Runner out there. Like, this happens. It may be frustrating and annoying sometimes, but, fine. But it's the lack of saying anything. I think even Disney has a little label that stuff's been modified when it happens. I don't think it's enough. I don't think it's enough. But it's something. But when collectors buy physical media, there is a different standard that is being expected than if you are throwing something on a streamer on an afternoon. And I think that's part of why people are so pissed. There's something that feels like violating. I don't want to. That's a little ridiculous. No,
I get what you're saying. I think that one of the things that the industry around physical media has not fully caught up to yet. I think they have an awareness of it, but they've not fully caught up to that. They went from the primary after theater market to a collector's market. And it will, we're seeing an increase in that, but it's still a collector's market. And a collector's market is very different from the, this is how you can watch the movie market. Like the collector's market is the one that, 20 years ago, they'd release like 15 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever, they'd release like the uncensored cut of something. And there would be like
European version,
which would have like 30 seconds of more footage and nothing remotely really different about it. Now, if you do that, and I don't think we see that as much because I don't think it was that popular to begin with. But now if they were to do that, they would get like just a shitstorm because people will be like, this is not a different version of the movie. Like, what are you talking about? Unrated cut, European, whatever. Like, unless it's an actual like difference. Like, is this a real difference? As opposed to just like you kept in an extra half boob or something like that.
I feel the need to clarify that after I said European version, I don't actually know if that ever was said, but there is an episode of Red Shoe Diaries. Oh, you know the Red Shoe Diaries with the European version of the
No,
music
I just
video?
know that I've heard that there's European versions of certain things.
Oh, I mean, there are, and sometimes it's that there's, a different dialogue track.
Yeah.
But there was a Red Shoe Diaries where there was a music video, and then it was like, and now we're going to shoot the European version, and like suddenly everybody was naked. And so European version became, actually with me and Louisa, my sister, who Sean knows, we would say European version, and it was...
Well, we're not doing a European version of the podcast.
Speak for yourself.
So
no, we're not going.
So
down this road.
these sorts of things, they have that quality of that censorship, and I would say that regardless of if the director was involved, like there is a point at which you kind of, and I think we've talked about this a little bit before, and I have my opinions on this, but like once the movie is out there, like it's not really yours to change anymore. Like once it's out there, it exists as a shared art piece of art. And I don't think that they like, and this is partly a complaint about George Lucas. Like
I don't
think you have do you have the right to update it and make changes and release that? Sure. I mean, you technically, like legally, you have the right. Like
obviously.
Artistically, you have the right. I would say withholding or not clearly defining that this is like or something redone, because this is a separate piece from the previous piece, right? You remove this line. This is a different movie.
Yeah, I mean, this is very top of mind because I just watched the special editions of Empire and Jedi with one of my nibblings. Who in their home, they have the same 3-disc set of Star Wars that I have where like it's the special editions and the original cuts are extras.
Okay.
Which is like for a while a lot of people got that set and it's weird because it's not even the versions of like the first film especially that I remember. It's because like before the special editions, there were some changes made. Like this print looks different. Anyway, point being,
he was dabbling with it for a long time.
Yeah, and it's interesting because he was maybe one of the earlier people to do that. And I have feelings too, and I think Star Wars is a great example because of how like there's a couple generations for whom those movies are different than they will be for almost every one of generations moving forward, because everybody moving forward seeing the special editions because that's what's streaming on Disney Plus. Like
it's also the only thing you could get on disc for the long. Like those discs that you're describing that was a short run of stuff.
Yeah, and I think I got it out of print on eBay even.
Yeah.
When I got these a long time ago, I was like, oh shit! Apparently this isn't. It was one of those things where I initially was like, well, this will be available because why wouldn't this be available? Mm-hmm. Everybody wants this. Everybody past a certain age wants the earlier versions, much more so than the fucking, Greedo shot first, etc. Yeah. Although that's not even the worst part. The worst part...
No, that's just...
The worst part is when Jabba the Hutt shows up in episode 4. The second worst part for my soul is the way they updated the Sarlacc, because the Sarlacc was scarier before. The Sarlacc was scarier before there was a fucking CGI Audrey 2 head that like pops out and is like going after him. I'm like, it is so much scarier the way the Sarlacc in the original was like, this is a creature or this is the landscape.
Yeah. I think
that's what's unsettling, like just teeth. Just perimeters of teeth. Like, that's... What the fuck is this? It's like, this is...
Yeah.
The other one, I'm like, oh, it's the fucking thing that the Millennium Falcon, like, hid inside of in Empire, except
on that moon.
Why do they keep making the Star Wars universe smaller? Sorry, that's a different...
No, I agree with you. It's a thing. I haven't seen, like, the original cuts or even, like, an older version of the cuts since it was on... for any of them since they were on like TV in the early 90s when they first did like when they did them. I remember NBC made a big deal of having them for on TV, and then they would be on the Sci-Fi Channel every once in a while, and I'd watch them. Or the Sci-Fi Channel would have like a special like weekend where they were running them or something. In the early 90s, before they even talked about like there being a prequel movie, or the re-releases in 97. So it was whatever that was the last time I would have seen any of those, because after that I think we owned the special editions. But yeah.
Well, you can always borrow from me if you ever want. I realized I lied. The Sarlacc is not the second worst thing about the special editions. It's the third worst thing. The second worst thing is actually, I think, tied for the first worst thing. Or maybe I don't know which is worse between I really hate when Jabba shows up in the first one. I hate it so much. But what I maybe hate even more is that they cut Yub Nub from the end of Jedi. The Ewok song. Yub Nub.
Oh, really? Oh. That's right. They have some other generic song. Some new John Williams song. Right?
It looks like the 4th of July.
Yeah.
Have I told you about my anti-Semitic experience with this?
No.
Last fall?
No.
So you know how you were saying that channels would like play Star Wars at special times? Yeah. Like, so I was in Ithaca, where I'm from, in a hotel with my sister Louisa of European version slang fame. And we were trying to sleep, and it was around Thanksgiving, and some channel was playing the Star Wars trilogy like over and over and over again. So that was like a pretty good thing to just kind of put on, right, to go to sleep to, because she and I have seen that a gajillion times, and it's comforting and whatever. Jedi was on, and I fell asleep. And at the very end, after the Death Star blows up, I woke up. And everyone was celebrating. And I said, this is so great. I can just hear Yub Nub and go back to sleep. And I was waiting and waiting. And this weirdo, generic, just celebration, 4th of July shit starts happening. And there's just fireworks on all these CGI planets. And you know what happened then?
No.
It cut to credits, and it did the credits super, super fast, so I didn't even get to hear all of the nice original John Williams score.
Sure.
And then the next thing I saw on my screen was Mel Gibson. And they moved into a Lethal Weapon marathon.
Well, it was Thanksgiving.
And that was why the Star Wars special editions are anti-Semitic.
That's fair. Mm-hmm. That's very fair. So we have examples like these. I think that there are, whether the director's involved or not, I think that there are, once the films are out, and certainly Pleasantville has been out for 30 years, like there's a way in which it's part of the culture, and that like holding, like just taking things out or changing things, like I don't think that they have just sort of like the freedom to do that. Like, I think that like it belongs to the culture, and at least like if you're going to cut the line, like mention it so people can say, fine, I'm just going to get the old Blu-ray, as opposed to the new 4K edition until you release it properly. It's,
I agree. Yeah. It's interesting because you say they don't have the right, but clearly they do.
And I mean, they have the right in a legal sense. I just mean in an artistic sense. Like, I think, and this has a lot to do with...
Well, that's, I think, the question. I think that's where you get into the thorny and stuff. Because clearly, artistically, they have the right, but is that... How do we feel about that?
And I mean, this...
Like, I think I feel it's a dick move.
It gets into where my feelings are about art and artists, and how I feel like art, once it's out in the world, tends to it's that separate the art from the artist sort of thing, sort of, not exactly. But like once you put your art out, like it's not the same thing, but that phrasing is bad. But
the phrasing, I think, will prevent people from understanding what you're saying. So that's why I'm suggesting.
But my point being just that, like, once you put your art out there, like, it's not that it's not yours anymore, but that it does become a communal thing. Like, it does become something that it's not just what you intended it to be. It's not just part of who you are. It's now every person now adds to that piece of art by engaging with it, like watching. If we're talking about films, because we're talking about films, watching it, right? You bring your meaning to the film from whatever you understand by watching it. And maybe you know something about how it was made, and that informs how you feel about it. Maybe you know something about the people who made it, and that informs how you respond to it. But even if you don't, like, it's still like how you respond to it is still valid and important, and a part of that art. And so these films, like our individual experiences of them, are a part of that. And so when the form of the film is changed like this, that changes. And this is not a new thing at all. Like, this is just how it's being done now. Things have gotten changed, like, immediately after being released into the theaters, and then would get re-released with new prints, or like they would premiere and then there would be a bunch of changes. That would be that's something that's genuinely happened in history, and I've got my issues with that. But there's also just, like, once it enters this sort of broader thing, like, it doesn't really belong to that person anymore. It belongs to all of us. That's not to, in our capitalist system, of course, I would say that the people who created it are the ones who have the ownership and the rights as far as, like, utilizing that piece of art to pay their bills and such. And the rest of us, not so much. But, like, the meaning of it, and, like, that it's... that's a lot of where I come from on like my issues with George Lucas. He can do whatever he wants to it. And obviously he can't do anything whatever he wants to it anymore, because Disney, owns it now. But, like, they can do whatever they want with it, but, like, they don't necessarily. It's not necessarily right, or I don't believe that they necessarily have the right to withhold extant versions from us. Which is a business process, which is part of Disney's business going way back. Like, they would release their films in theaters every couple of years, re-release things every 10 years or something like that. And they even held way back on home video for a long time, and were really limited about home video because they want to control stuff to that degree. So they're particularly bad about that. But
are we going to go see The Devils when the new...
Oh yeah,
we should do an episode about that.
Sure.
Yeah, because just speaking of things that have been withheld, from the public, and censored.
Yeah, and that's a very censored one. And I think, we've talked about this. One of the other things that we'll talk about, because Devils is an older one, definitely the same sort of thing. Distributors, like, people got pissed off about the movie, so distributors
there's different cuts,
cut it way down. But there's also, and we'll share an article about this, about how Blockbuster heavily, like, forced edits on films because it was the quote family video rental store, and so they wouldn't carry films that had certain kinds of material in them.
It was specifically, they would not, first of all, they wouldn't carry unrated material. Everything had to have a Motion Picture Association of America rating on it. And two, they would not carry NC-17, which, for those of us who remember the 90s and remember the genesis of NC-17, which was initially supposed to, remove the stigma of an X rating so that you could have Henry and June, which I think was the first NC-17 film. You could have legitimate, adult cinema that, that was the idea. But of course, NC-17 just kind of became the new X. And, the idea between NC-17 was that a venue like a Blockbuster, for example, which I don't remember when Blockbuster started, but a mainstream Cineplex or video store could have, kids can't rent this or kids can't go see this even with an adult. But, for adults, it's not porn, actually, because it was kind of like X makes it seem like it's porn.
Yeah.
There are totally pornographic movies rated NC-17, by the way, which is a funny thing that happens now. But point being, Blockbuster was like, we are the chain. We are the family, mainstream, corporate, big box video store chain. And we are not going to stock those dirty NC-17 movies. So what happened when movies came out, like, I don't know, a Showgirls, for example, which was a big studio film. I'm sure they had an R-rated version of Showgirls at Blockbuster.
I think they probably did.
And I think they had censorship beyond even just cutting NC-17s to something that would likely be an R, because that's weird anyway, because the only way to get a rating, an MPAA rating, is to submit your film to the MPAA and have whatever random-ass assortment of concerned community members watch it and say what they think it should be rated. Like, these things don't mean anything. They're inconsistent. There's stuff rated PG from the 70s that would be rated R today because there's nudity in it. And, the MPAA is more sensitive to nudity now than it was in 1973 or whenever the fuck Hair came out, and...
Well, there is a note in the article that we'll put in the show notes that they did refuse in '89 to carry Scorsese's Last Temptation of Christ, which is an Academy Award nominated film, which is not an NC-17. Film. It's an excellent film. Nope. It's R, I think.
It's an excellent film, and honestly, Scorsese, I don't really know, but he's Christian, right?
He's Catholic,
like Catholic, yeah. He's Catholic, and he's like kind of into it in a very intellectual way.
Yeah, he's very Catholic. Like that's a big part of a lot of this stuff. Yeah,
I can't go down the Last Temptation of Christ rabbit hole, but like that is arguably one of the most pro-Christian movies ever made.
Yeah, I mean. It's not, and it's all like the book as well. It's not anti, and it's not even suggesting. It's like, I know some people's problem with it or claimed problem with it is it makes him too human. And it's just like that, but that's the point. But like,
by depicting things that are in the stories about this dude in the Bible. Yeah. That you all supposedly read. There's nothing in that movie that, like, Scorsese made up. Jesus is supposed to be tempted by the devil, right? Like, I'm not Christian. This isn't my mythology, but my understanding, you could be human, and you could, this life, you could have had it.
And
they're
don't
like,
think
how dare Jesus be aware that sex exists?
Yeah, I don't think the explicit, like, the specific temptation was there. I think that's what the book is about, is like exploring that idea, and then the film is about exploring that idea. And the thing is just like,
the Last Temptation of Christ.
What?
It's called The Last Temptation of Christ. Like, it's what it's about. Like, do people just think this movie shouldn't exist? Like, we can't talk about that?
Yeah. Some of them, you can't talk about it unless it's approved by the people who want to be approved by, who want to approve it. And it's this American Family Association type people. It's these, it's the thing is they want it to be like, it could be the exact same thing as long as it like somehow benefited them. That's ultimately where a lot of the Christian boycotting and desires for censorship come from, is these people are like, I'm not getting a cut of that, so it's bad. If they did the exact same thing, which they don't have the talent or capacity to do, they wouldn't have a problem with it. Like, you just fucking look at what you call it, which I haven't seen, the Passion of the Christ, the Gibson. Mel
Oh
Gibson
God,
movie. Like,
I kind of.
they bust people to it. Churches bust people to it.
Oh, I know all
because
about
it
it.
came from one of theirs.
And it's the same thing they do with the fucking books too. It's like all this smoke and mirrors circle jerk when it comes to like they'll buy like mass quantities of like their own books and be like, it's a bestseller.
Yeah, they'll just fill a warehouse somewhere with their books. It's
but,
dumb shit.
I kind of want to see The Passion of the Christ. I've never seen it, but I kind of want to because, well, it's a gore film. And there's a sick part of me that wants to see the Jesus gore film because I'm curious. I got curiosity. I already talked about my horrible anti-Semitic incident where Mel Gibson hurt me.
As I understand it, that movie will give you even more anti-Semitic stuff.
That's what I hear. But see, I want to know because I don't want to be, like a woke scold who's like, Mel Gibson's anti-Semitic. Like, we all know he is. He's said so himself so many times. But maybe his anti-Semitism in this movie is overblown. So I just want to give him the benefit of the doubt. That's all it is.
Sure. Maybe his anti-Semitism in the movie where I'm pretty sure he just goes like, yep.
Jews kill Jesus.
We
probably shouldn't have talked about... I'm so worried that we're going to end up in this day and time of auto transcription and all sorts of things that... I hope this episode doesn't go some bad places.
I mean, I don't, whatever. I can always delete comments.
So true.
But yeah, Blockbuster did a lot of this. I mean, recutting is something that was happening a lot. Like I'm aware that like even certain companies that would acquire indie films, Miramax, the Weinsteins, they would insist on recutting films.
And that's a little different.
It's a little different, yeah.
It's a little different,
similar.
but it is a part. It's related.
Part of the same thing. And it's part of... And all of this really does kind of weave into the way in which film as an art form is so trapped by commerce. And being commercial. Like, that is a fundamental problem for it as an art form because, like, you have to show some ability to sell because it costs so much to make them. Even a cheap film, like, costs a lot of money to put together, and to get people to want to put money down for that, you got to be able to show that, like, you can make money off of it, which I think the unfortunate thing that has happened with that is they've leaned towards, like, we have to make it as palatable to as many people as possible.
Right.
Which means toothless, which means, like...
When you try to appeal to everybody, you appeal to nobody.
Yeah.
It's like, it's fine. You get slop.
Yeah.
You get slop, and, it might go down easy, But it's yeah. And I think this sort of thing is going to get worse because this is the sort of thing that has gotten easier to do. It's easier to fix, to go back and go like, oh, let me fix this, let me change this. And I do think that there is a danger, and this kind of comes up when we're talking about Disney. I think that there's a danger, like there's one side of it, which is removing references to sex because, sex is dirty and bad and we don't want to talk about that. And I think there's the other side of like, these words or the way something is depicted might be harmful to somebody. We have to remove that. I think that which is a thing that was referenced in terms of, Disney's Fantasia, and that there are edits to it streaming online that have removed some questionable depictions of the what are they, the centaur girls, I think, that looked, there was some sort of racist black looking ones.
Apparently, in one of the articles it mentions this. I don't remember.
Fucking Disney.
And the thing is like, I mean, I don't want it to harm anybody like that, but I also have a problem with changing that because we're erasing that they did that, and we shouldn't.
Here's what I'm gonna say. There's so many movies out there. There's so many movies. Some of them that were even maybe very popular at the time they came out have been largely forgotten because they are not culturally relevant in a way they used to be. And that's fine. That's what's going to happen. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying, hey, a film that was marketed as a family film when it came out a long ass time ago isn't really a family film anymore. It's like a historical piece of animation that you aren't going to just slap on and, for your kids to watch without having to have a conversation with them about it. What if, instead of censoring these old classics, Disney was just like, here are our movies for kids. Maybe not everything in our vault needs to be for kids. That doesn't mean it can't be available, but not everything needs to be for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, you could put it in a whole section that says, this is the vault. Please note that, like, films in this section or cartoons in this section, TV shows in this section may have questionable depictions of any number of things, listed out, and that you may want to discuss with your children before showing it to them, or that some people may find offensive.
This I think speaks to another pet peeve of both of ours, which is like the death of media literacy and critical thinking skills. Because like, I watch movies with, my nibblings quite a bit, and we have conversations. Fucked up stuff happens in those movies sometimes. Yeah. And they're smart kids, and we talk about it. It's not like kids are sponges, but they're not just sponges. Like, you can encourage kids.
Yeah.
You can contextualize. You can say, what do you think about this? Mm-hmm. The idea, this Silicon Valley frictionless existence that we're not even being sold, we're being force-fed, is not actually what I want or what a lot of people want. It's just in the moment. It's also easier to go with the flow.
It's not how people learn things. It's not how people process things. I mean, so related to that and the media literacy thing. So one of the things, and I think, this is a little bit of a straw man thing that gets shared around about somebody who uses ChatGPT complaining that they don't understand how somebody could write, how they can be expected to write a 10-page paper without using ChatGPT. And, I sit there and I look at that and I'm just like, man, I used to write 5-page papers on lined paper with a pencil. I used to have to have physical books and photocopies that I had to pay for around to write a paper in college. And as we talked about, I'm going back to school now. And I did the video essay. We shared the video essay a couple episodes ago. And one of the things that I did note, in both classes, we had a short paper, which was roughly 5 pages that was due. And, another larger project at the end of the semester. And man, people being like, 5 pages. I'm like, we're in a graduate program, friends. I know some of you are in a practical MFA program where you're mostly just shooting stuff and you're not really writing stuff. But also presumably at some point in your life, people had expectations of you. And I think it's and man, I feel bad for any professor I might get who suggests that maybe they could that maybe something with using AI for their papers is okay because I'm going to get kicked out of school.
Look, we talked about AI a bunch last week, so I don't want to go.
No, but
I'm sure we'll talk about it again.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll talk about it again. But my point just being the critical thinking thing is something that feels like it's getting worse. Like,
yes, and
by design.
Yes, exactly. I said to other Sean the other day, I was scrolling Reddit and somebody on Reddit had posted this thing being like, the tech bros are trying to like make people ignorant and lose skills that we used to have so that then they can charge us to like subscribe to their, intelligence or whatever. And that's one of those things where like I first read it and I'm like, yeah, it's not actually that. And I was like, actually, that is exactly whatever the intent is, that is exactly what's happening in that I feel really bad for younger people. And I will not go too far down this path. We can talk about some of these things in future episodes, but like, there are younger people who were told to use this shit, like in school.
Yeah.
Like they learned how to do research with ChatGPT. And so they don't know how to do research and they don't know how to write. And that's a real problem because like the research and writing skills in this country were already down the fucking toilet before these I was already constantly offended at the terrible writing I was being asked to read on the interwebs. Like, I find it insulting when I am asked to read something that the person has not taken the time to shape into something someone might possibly want to read. I think it's rude. But anyway, yeah, I mean, look, dude, I'm in a writing class right now, and all you hear from me about it is school is great. I love school. I love homework if the teacher's good and the students are good, which in this case they are. It's miserable otherwise. But like, I write all the time. I'm in this class in part because my writing skills are falling off, not because of ChatGPT, which I do not use, but because this is an essay writing class, and I've been focused on screenwriting, and they're very different things, and I'm getting so far afield. But my point was, I'm just going to skip to 2 points I wanted to make earlier. One is a film that I think understands how once a film is made, it becomes its own entity that is no longer a part of its creator anymore, is Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miasma, which is all about, among other things, the communal experience of a film and it being about more things than whatever its creator was thinking they were like trying to say, right? And I've been thinking about that movie a lot. I like it more and more the more I think about it, and that's this conversation actually is making me realize another thing that I like about it, because it expresses that in a very relatable way. The other thing I wanted to say is you mentioned that part of why this stuff is happening so much more is because technologically it's easier to do, which is true. And I just wanted to say that this isn't really about, that issue isn't really about the film industry and film distribution. I think about like, because that cuts across all forms of media. I think about whatever the fucking Kanye album was that I never got in, Life of Pablo. Were like 25 versions of the fucking Life of Pablo. He was constantly re-releasing that album. I don't think I listened to any of them all the way through. I did not like that album, and we're not currently Kanye fans on this podcast, unfortunately, on account of all the Nazi shit and everything else. But as media production shifts so dramatically with digital production and post-production, I imagine that we will see creators who have the clout to do so continuing to pull a George Lucas or a Kanye and like, I don't like it either. I don't like it. But they're going to do it if they can. Maybe it would be helpful to push back on it more. Like, we are seeing that. We're seeing response to pushback these days. We are seeing response to pushback on some things, and maybe I think that's the only way I see this going a different path, because it's like,
Yeah.
Some people are not going to be able to resist, like, the control freak possibilities.
I mean, one of the issues is also with this and with what we were talking about earlier, because we had the tangent about social media, is that we're in a very transitional period, and we have been for a minute, and it's really hard to, and there's a lot of attempts to try to push us in a direction as far as where that transition is going, but there's not really like good leadership around it, because the thing is like, and I think it's been happening for a long time in a way that there are so many things pulling in different directions is one of the reasons why there hasn't been, because there was a fairly, like, took several years, but there was a transition into sort of the social media era. It took several years, but there was also sort of a unified push almost, but not even unified push. Like, several things were coming together at the same time that moved us into that era, which really, what?
When specifically? Are you talking about like the 2000s? Or are you talking about the 2010s?
About between like 2000, I want to say between like 2007 and 2013.
So you're talking about the Facebook takeover era.
I'm talking about, the
transition from MySpace to Facebook being dominant, and going from social networking to social media.
And not just that, because it was more than just, as much as Facebook would like to say it's just Facebook. It was more than Facebook. It was people getting on Twitter, because more people got on Twitter after 2007. It was those things going from, and I think Instagram was really the thing that tipped it, and the popularity of Instagram, because Instagram is where influencers became a thing.
Well, yeah. Are you talking about? Because I don't think it's really about the individual platforms. We can break down what each of them had to do with the evolution. But I don't think you're saying that.
No, I'm not saying it's the individuals. I'm saying it's that wave of stuff where it became sort of central.
Yes, I'm asking, is what you're identifying perhaps what we could call the shift from social networking to social media?
Probably.
Because in my opinion, the way I see it, social media killed social networking, and now social media is cannibalizing itself because it's not sustainable, because it's an incredibly greedy and deceptive business model that relies on exploiting a lot of unpaid and unacknowledged labor. And there was a delicate balance that kept that working for quite a while. But all we're seeing is all of those companies getting greedier and greedier and greedier, and coming up with more and more and more lines of monetization of these people who are already providing all of this unpaid labor on multiple different levels. Mm-hmm. And that to me, like, it's about social networking to social media, because social networking was about, hey, this is a site where I can connect with my friends, or a site where I can make new friends. Maybe we're poking each other. Maybe we're sharing photos. Maybe we're talking to each other. But it's about the network. Now it's about users creating content that they're almost never being paid for, that is media, that is the reason why people come to these websites, even if the reason that they're a member in the first place is because they joined in a networking phase. You know, Facebook started as social networking and became social media. And I think something like Instagram is, and like, look, OG Instagram, when it was a startup, lovely little app. This is not a criticism of original Instagram. It is a criticism of what Mark Zuckerberg did to Instagram.
I don't think Mark Zuckerberg did this to Instagram. I think they just they just made what was already bad worse. Instagram, in and of itself, from its origins, I think, partly because of startup culture, because what also the social media rise helped push was this startup culture, which was build, move fast, break things, and try to sell as quick as possible. But original Instagram, also, it wasn't about networking, and it wasn't about sharing. very much so original Instagram. And it wasn't until very recently that they changed this. It was just about staying on the platform. There was no linking out. And they had some reasons for it. They were kind of, oh, people are always sending people to links and stuff like that. I get that. But also, like,
that broke social
centralization.
Media.
Centralization and that kind of encouragement of that
be
ecosystem.
Here all the time. We don't want you to leave.
Right.
That's it. That's their business model.
That's what I'm saying. Is that is part of what, but my point was, like, we had that phase where we transitioned, and it was a fairly, like, it just kind of happened over that less than a decade. It just sort of, things kind of merged and formed in that way that it was all kind of moving in the same direction. And, you know, some of it is also goes back to, like, Google, and it goes to YouTube and all those. But, like, right now, for the last decade, like, social media has increasingly been cannibalizing itself. Like, since the 2016 election, that is the point. And, you know, I think you and I
when we all got doomed.
Yeah, you and I have talked about this, and you've talked about it quite a bit. Careless People. I don't think we've talked about it on the show yet, but people should definitely. I borrowed the book from the library, listened to it. That's my thing, audiobooks lately.
I did too. I listened to the audiobook.
Yeah, so the audiobook for Careless People, you want to know what's wrong with this stuff, I think that the author absolves herself a little bit too much of her own part in things, which is understandable with an autobiographical thing like that. But, like, I think that there's enough there that, like, everybody's terrible. But since then, like, there's no breathing room for anything else. So, what are you saying?
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I sent the physical copy of the book, though, to my mom. I sent her that, and Empire of AI by Karen Howe, I think is the author's name. I sent her those two books, and she read them and was like, great, now I understand. And you can understand, too.
But, like, since then, like, it's been choking itself, and, you know, even they know because they keep trying to pivot, right? Like, and it's always like, you got to stay, they're always trying to sell us on you got to keep up with the next big thing, whether it was, and this is the thing as a filmmaker, because we've talked about it a couple times on the show, but we are also filmmakers. The thing that drives me crazy about, I shouldn't talk about AI again, but it's the latest example of, you got to get involved with this, otherwise you're going to get left behind. You know, back when I started in 2008, it was, you got to put all your stuff on YouTube. You got to be doing stuff for YouTube. And that kind of worked, like web series kind of worked for a minute, because it was, and that's like the most legitimate one, because it's like, oh, okay, I'm making my stuff and here's a distribution channel that I can share with. And back then it worked. Then it was, there was something, I think there was something else in between, but what I remember specifically was, oh, we all got to do stuff that's like 360 or like 180, that, you know, immersive. I think there was a different word for it, but it was, you know, and that was around 2015, 2016.
Everything's going to be 360. Why wouldn't you? Just like everything's 3D now. And Sean, this is why we are so fucking wealthy, because we were smart and invested all that money in NFTs.
Exactly. It's always like, well, you got to get in it because it's going to be the next big thing. Yeah. If you're telling me it's going to be the next big thing, it's probably not, because the next big thing just kind of happened. Or it's too late. And vertical video. That was the other thing that, like, also, like,
I actually, what my stomach just did when you said vertical video.
Yeah, vertical video. They're like, oh, well, they all have their place and their things. But, like, as a filmmaker, we didn't have to do any of those. And now they're saying with the AI stuff, and I'm just like, nope. Honestly? I actually canceled the ticket for a movie I was supposed to see yesterday because I realized they used AI. It was a movie. It's a movie. It's this Memories of Princess Mumbi, I think, something like that. It was out, and it sounded interesting because it's a future movie. It's a sci-fi movie about the future where this guy is making a documentary or a movie, and this person convinces them to do it without the use of AI. So I was like, okay, cool. That sounds interesting. And then I'm looking up a little bit more about the film, and it talks about how they used generative AI for set extensions and for some background stuff and sci-fi looking stuff. And I was like, that undermines what I assume the point of this movie is. I don't want to see that. And I just like can't, I thought about it for a couple hours because I was like, I'm curious about this movie and the trailer looks interesting, but like I just don't have, I just know I would be like looking for it and annoyed when I noticed it. And I don't care how good it is. I don't care about, and I just, it's trash and I won't tolerate it anymore.
Did I share on Discord that article about, it was focused more on video games, but it was like, the title was saying like, the market has spoken, AI slop has no value. Like, people don't want it.
I saw that going around. Yeah, people don't, like, it looks weird and makes them uncomfortable. It all looks so the same. You can tell even half the time that it is.
Did you notice when... This is something I've started seeing the phrase uncanny valley cropping up more and more these days, and I'm so relieved because I felt like maybe I should develop a conspiracy theory about this. But do you remember when the Polar Express came out and was universally experienced to be uncanny valley and unpleasant for this reason? Now that film, okay, so a few years ago, like my nibblings, who are the theme of this episode, they're like, oh yeah, we watched the Polar Express in school or something. And I'm like, they showed you that shit in school? That creepy ass shit? And they're just like, what? It's a good movie. And I'm like, what are you talking about? That animation looks terrible. It was like unfit for human eyes. And I'm like, wait a second. They're just like, kids are growing up watching this and thinking it's... I feel that there was I feel that the concept of the uncanny valley got kind of censored out of the culture to a large degree to force us to not have the language to explain what exactly is so unpleasant about AI slop.
I mean, I've definitely heard the phrase used with it, and I've seen the phrase get used a lot. I think that, like...
I didn't for years. I mean, not never, but I would hear that phrase a lot. And then I feel like there was like a 10-year lull where people were... I would be like, this is uncanny valley to me. And people are like, what? I mean, not what. They know what it means. But wasn't... I wasn't hearing people talking about it the way I was during the earlier time of computer animation. Like being... Well, I think post-Toy Story.
It was more of a point, talking point then because it was... Like it was a talking point that people were trying to push forward. Like it was a talking point that it's not that they tried to erase it. It's just that it became less of a point for some of them. But
as the technology continues to evolve, we're getting so many new flavors of Uncanny Valley, and they're all worse than the last.
Yeah. But for some of the stuff, like one of the reasons it didn't come up as much is because the animation studios that were involved with all of that, there's a reason that all of the DreamWorks and the Pixar things look so cartoony. They're explicitly trying to avoid, they can do, and you can just look at the textures or the details in some of those movies. I didn't see the new Toy Story movie. I saw the last one. I don't really remember much about what happened. I don't really care anymore, which is fine. But I remember being at the last one, was 4 or whatever. And from a technical perspective, the work that they're doing, at one point, I think some fuzzy toy or something. Maybe
was it the cat in the sunshine?
No,
there was this shot of a cat.
It was wet.
Okay.
It was wet fur is what I'm talking about. It was very realistic looking. It was a very impressive work because that's extremely complicated. It's not just the shininess. It's also the clumping. It's also all of these things. They can do it much more. But even the Spider-Verse films, for example, they're highly stylized. They could do those very realistic looking. But they just don't because that is a problem. Because it creeps
people out, because it's Uncanny Valley, but somebody forgot to tell all the fucking generative AI apps that.
Well, because they don't actually, because they're those dweebs who don't fucking.
It's not art.
No, it's not. It's not even worth discussing that point. Like it's there is no argument there. There's no point there. I saw some thing that was talking about how maybe we should consider these people who are getting obsessed with or getting sucked into these chats with the chat GPTs and the other things as like, oh, well, they're showing signs of what is like addiction and maybe we need to show a little bit more compassion. And I'm just like, no. I mean, I understand and actually like in a broad sense, like can completely acknowledge that is a valid point. I just don't want to. Because they're the same people who are like really, really fucking thrilled about the fact that the film industry is collapsing so that they can do their AI bullshit things. Like they're thrilled by that. Like one of the things that they're doing is delegitimizing work that had already been being undermined for decades. They're eager to run around and play with their AI girlfriend and do that shit. But that's not what we were talking about today.
This is so true. And we've been talking a long time, haven't we?
We have. We should probably wrap up here. Sorry, you were going to say a thing. What?
I don't fucking remember.
That's all right.
All kinds of things. Uncanny Valley, cross industries.
But we're talking about art in general.
Other 4Ks are getting censored. I heard that there was a Shout Factory Day of the Dead.
Oh, really?
That was censored, and I don't know how. But just knowing that it's out there is so upsetting for me. Like you don't censor George Romero.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's like blasphemy. And let's not even get started about, apparently there's censored Crocodile Dundee, which I think is a great example of like, I don't know, don't show Crocodile Dundee then. It's not like Crocodile Dundee. It is what it is.
Yeah.
It's of its time. It was offensive at the time. If you want to watch an offensive old movie, I don't think it should be like, burned at the stake. But I'm like, okay, just because this was a PG family movie that in the 80s you let your kids go see, and now you're like, well, shit, I don't know if I want to let my kids go see Crocodile Dundee. Then don't. It's not like it's a good movie.
Hey, now, I've seen both of the Crocodile... Well, there's three. The early Crocodile... There's three. There's Crocodile Dundee in Los Angeles. Listen, those first two movies were something I watched many times as a kid. Are they good movies? Probably not. I don't care. But we watched those a lot.
I saw them, but I don't... They were omnipresent. Like,
yeah.
At
Well,
the end
it was
because
it was during the obsession with Australia that we had.
But it was also like... Okay, we're not here to talk about this either. For some reason, I associate with him with Ernest, and I feel like there were all these like characters.
It has a similar, because it's like it's sort of like this goofy character, fish out of water sort of focused thing.
Yeah, or like
kind of
Young Einstein.
Yeah,
Yahoo Serious. I feel like that's come up on this show before.
I think you might have mentioned it before. But anyway, there's a lot of things that are getting censored like that. There's a long tradition of that. I think
so. We all gotta educate ourselves.
Yeah.
It's really annoying. Like, be like me. Go on all these. Go on Reddit and don't post, but just read what people say on the physical media subreddits and things.
Yeah. Well, and I think what I was saying about when I went off on a tangent about social media stuff, but was that in terms of distribution, and film is in a weird transitional period. Media is in a weird transitional period. Distribution for film is in this weird period because, for a minute there, and it was a short minute, the online platforms, the streaming platforms were actually like an opportunity for a wide range of filmmakers, not just the studios. Like there was a period there where like filmmakers who weren't well known or very indie stuff could get on like Netflix. Like that was very early on in Netflix. You could get on Netflix. You know, that's
they had
where
shorts. Once
they had
upon
shorts.
a time on Netflix.
I mean, Mike Flanagan's like first film, I watched that on Netflix kind of randomly before he started like making stuff that got noticed. Other people who didn't like reach the heights that Mike Flanagan has, I remember seeing their stuff on Netflix when that was the main streamer around. And, you know, for the longest time, you could, as an independent, distribute to like Amazon, like their streaming service, Prime. And then they've effectively strangled that.
You used to be able to watch some of our stuff on Amazon Prime, and now for some reason you can't.
Yeah, no, they've just completely removed us. But like, unless you're making like Trump versus the Illuminati or some like bullshit quote unquote documentary, like you can't put it out there. They do stuff with aggregators. Everybody does stuff with aggregators. Tubi, you got to go through aggregators. Like what was an open space and opportunity has constricted. Physical media is something that like there's less of it, and it's like we're in this period where like how people can watch films is in a transition, and it's not. I don't know. It's not looking great, honestly.
This kind of brings us back in a way. Maybe I can full circle it. I don't want to talk about the stupid fascist purge sex movie. I haven't seen it. I'll watch it when it's free, but I don't want to go. I don't want to talk about it too much. I just want to mention the thing the director said about why like there's not really sex in the movie about sex.
Oh yeah.
And he said that like they actually shot a bunch of stuff that got cut because test audiences didn't like it. And he's like, audiences today don't want to see sex in movies. It's not just young people, it's everybody. It's because like we look at porn on our phones now. So like we don't think of it as being a thing to do in public as part of a communal experience. And I said, that is a vast overgeneralization. I do think there's like some grains of truth in that. I do think it's true that you used to have to go to a movie theater if you wanted to watch a dirty movie. And then there was the home video revolution that was supposedly like...
You still had to go into that little curtained room, though. Yeah,
like you might be doing mail order, but it was very normal in video stores. There'd be a porno section, or you'd have to go to the adult store, and... I want to say I think there's something good about that, because I think you and I, Sean, we're adults. And I think there's something to be said for, like, you're an adult, you want to buy some porn, go buy some fucking porn. And there are complications to this. I want to say there are people who make themselves vulnerable in particular ways, potentially, by buying porn. I'm talking about like queer people whose sexuality is criminalized, right?
Sure.
Like so just holding that's a real thing. Not talking about people making themselves vulnerable in real ways. I'm talking about like some white straight cis guy who's just kind of embarrassed.
Yeah.
And I kind of think part of being an adult is being able to purchase the things you need to purchase, even if they're kind of embarrassing. Your hemorrhoid cream, your fucking tampons or whatever. Like, there's this weird thing sometimes where, like, cis men are like, I don't want to buy tampons. I'm like, wow, you've never had, like, dated someone who menstruates, huh? Like,
I've heard that. I've had the weird other end of that where I don't have a problem with it because I'm not a fucking idiot. And
yeah, I didn't think,
like,
yeah.
and like, I people say, oh, like, you know, he doesn't have a problem doing that. I'm like, why is this a point of discussion? Like, I'm sorry, I'm not going up to the thing.
People have said that to you?
Yes, I have been complimented for it, and it's the stupidest fucking compliment I've ever received.
By who? I'm so interested.
I can't even remember. This was years ago.
Women, men?
Women. Like, men are...
Women,
like,
okay,
women
that's
would
just
say
sad,
stuff.
because the bar's in the basement.
Well,
the bar's in the basement.
It was just, it's a thing of, like, that's stupid. Like, and I feel like I was around like some guy and I just teased him about it, who was like, no, I don't want to do that. I'm just like, do you think that the person at the register gives any shits about you buying that? Do you think, you might have grown a vagina that you're using that for? And also, like, who fucking cares?
Also, though, it's like, yeah, you know, trans guys,
they might need
buy
them,
tampons.
but like, also, like,
and like, if you're a trans guy, this is actually kind of a good parallel. If you're a trans guy, I can understand feeling somewhat uncomfortable, because you're potentially, you know, maybe you're stealth, or because transphobic violence is like a very real threat. You know what's not a real threat? Someone being like, oh, you're a cis guy who gets his period. I'm going to make fun of you for it. Like, it's not going to occur. If it's making you uncomfortable, that is something to explore with your therapist. Because, like, this is clearly not a dude thing. Because, like, when I brought this up, maybe we've talked about it before even, but, like, it didn't occur to me that this would be, you know, something you would have a problem with. This is not something
it's
that
a
cis
stupid
man I
thing
live
for
with
people
has
to
a
have
problem
with. Like,
it's so stupid.
We can't get into
it's so fragile. That's fragile masculinity.
No, it is
what that is. But what was I talking about? That
we were talking about, like, people can go out and buy
porn.
what they need to do, like,
buy
whatever
your
it is.
fucking porn. Buy your fucking porn. Buy your lube. Buy your condoms. Buy your adult diapers. Buy your porn. Like, I don't want to hear about it either. But if I was working behind the I know it's really the diapers I don't want to either. But like, you know, if
no, I get it. But yes, the point being, like it's this
friction. It's this the elimination of friction from our lives, which is not actually happening. Because I will tell you, there is lots of unpleasant friction in my life every day. Because like these dudes are not disrupting my problems.
No. They're not actually fixed. It's a thing that I've been thinking about this. We had this conversation because when we saw Camp Miasma, we went to the Brooklyn Alamo, and I loved the Alamo. I'm less inclined towards it lately. It was nice to see like an actual like the filmmaker Jane Schoenbrun was there and did a lovely intro. It was very very cool. But
thrilled to go. Thank you for having me, Sean.
And that was nice. But the thing about going to the Alamo was always there was a little bit more of a personal experience to it, like where it was a little annoying that they would come around and like do the whole spiel about like, have you been here before, and just reminding you of how the system worked. But at the same time, that was very direct and personal, like ordering from a person and like having that person come and bring stuff. And like there was a more personal like interaction there than even just going to like a regular movie theater and like going up to a concession stand, getting your stuff and going to your seat. Like, and that was one of the things that made it a more like, there's the quiet, which is one of the reasons I liked it. The food is fine, but like also not an absolute necessity for me to be able to have dinner while I'm watching the movie. But also like, you know, I think it was that feeling like I was at a place that was where there was a connection, where there was a shared, like, we love films, and yeah, you're here for your paycheck, but also like they would usually have like film t-shirts on or something else. Like there would be a personality to the server, and like
you'd have a nice little interaction, you know, you'd just have like a nice human interaction. Like, and if they start to give the spiel, you're like, Ben here, and they're like, great, and they, you know,
they have a name, and they would tell you their name. Would I remember their name? No, but that's not what's important. But like,
it's about people treating one another as people and not like a fucking NPC. What do you call them?
NPC. But like, there's the removal of the personal, and you know, this sort of stuff. I think we. God, everything makes me sound like an old man lately. But I'm like, we're just less personal. We're just less connected to each other, and
I mean,
yeah, we're more isolated. And I think lots of things exacerbated that. We should probably wrap up, though, because we've been going on even longer than usual.
we could do a whole episode about the Alamo Drafthouse because I didn't even give my opinions on.
Oh,
And
right.
you know, I
What did
have
you
them. No, I really can't because I'm so angry at the Alamo Drafthouse and how inshitified they've become.
Yeah. So,
And that's what
Sony
happens
bought 'em
when
out.
venture capital buys. Yeah, like this is. or
Well, the
whoever
venture
bought
capital
them,
wasn't as
not
bad as
venture
Sony
capital.
owns it now,
Sony owns it now.
right? Yeah. And so it's just.
I stopped following when it stopped being a business I was personally invested in as a patron because now I just go when you give me free tickets and
Yeah.
because like if I'm gonna pay to go to a movie, one, I don't really like take advantage of the food and beverages almost ever anymore. So like that is like almost a non-factor. And if I'm not having that, I would rather be at an AMC in one of those fucking like video game recliners. I don't know why I called it that. And have the lights down and not have fucking servers going through the aisles bringing people their food. And not have the lights on that need to be on to enable that. The first time I ever went, before I ever went to the Alamo, I actually went to the Nighthawk in Williamsburg. First movie I saw there was Inside Llewyn Davis. And I was like, this was a great experience. It was really great to have a cocktail while I watched this awesome movie. But also, certain movies I wouldn't want to see here because I can't concentrate as well because there's so much external stimuli going on from the lights being a little higher and there being this extra level of noise and motion and all that. And it was worth it for me to put up with that stimuli at the Alamo because they had such a strong no phones rule. And I'm like, okay, I will deal with the servers whispering stuff about that because that's all within a certain like mode of stuff. And because people aren't talking and I'm not seeing people's phones light up in my peripheral vision. That's the thing that it's like, it's not a decision. It's a fucking sensory thing. And they don't even say make sure your phone's on the dimmest setting or anything. They have built it in so that you have to use your phone to order in the movie theater. And that is why, like, I cannot imagine I need to Venmo you money for a drink. But aside from that, I can't imagine giving them money because, like, it's so like how everything is these days. It's like, so you came full circle back to, like, recreating the problem that you were trying to solve.
Yeah. And it's just all, it's, as you said, it's enshittification, which censorship is a part of. And I'm going to say we're wrapping up because we'll keep going. This is why we started doing lives, is because it makes us stop. As usual, you should leave comments if you disagree with us on any particular point. You can do so here on YouTube, where we're live streaming. You can do it on the audio-only versions. You can come over to the Patreon, patreon.com/4milescircus. All the episodes are, except for a couple of patron-only episodes, all the episodes are there. You can leave comments. You can leave reviews places, do all that kind of fun stuff.
You can subscribe if you want those extra episodes and other cool things that are coming. I'm gonna actually. There'll be a. I'm working on a post that's for our $10 a month in a Patreon. So
right.
That's gonna be talking a lot of shit. So if you want to hear shit talking behind a paywall,
because you don't normally do that at all.
I know it's a special treat.
It's a special
for our
treat.
paid subscribers.
So there's that. You can join us there. And otherwise, we'll be back next week probably with something. And then we're changing schedules starting in September. And we'll talk about that.
We will. Until then, keep watching movies. We need to sign off.
No, we don't. That's our sign off. It's no sign off.
Goodbye.
All right, goodbye. The Celluloid Mirror is a production of 4 Mile Circus and is hosted by Sean Mannion and Nicole Solomon. Learn more at 4milecircus.com. To keep up with the next episode, make sure to subscribe and click that button to get reminders. You can also join our Patreon at patreon.com/4milecircus. All the links are below. Our opening and closing music is Twisted by Kevin MacLeod. You can find his music at incompetech.com.
I ended up in that hall of mirrors. There was another girl. She looked like me. Exactly like me.
Can you come with me and returns?
That'll do, babe.
What happens when the story dies? The evil is set free.
I have to return some videotapes.